Hey boys, I'm gonna have to take the hit for this one. I made a huge mistake in suggesting and picking this movie. I apologize because it's a real fucking movie.
You have no idea how disappointed I am in you.
I picked a movie and it was a movie.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I screwed up, dude. I can't. Listen. I'll make it up to you. Next week, we can watch the remake of The Pack. Welcome to Rough Cuts.
Dogs, they're coming. They're coming your way. They'll be here soon.
There, you're gonna be okay.
There are over 32 million dogs in this country today.
Sure, somebody will come and take you in.
A flesh-eating mammal, they have been kept in a domesticated state by man since prehistoric times. When abandoned by man, left to fend for themselves, and deprived of food, they will resort to the most primitive means of survival. Given no other choice, they form the pack.
Look, it's a real film.
Movie.
We watched a real movie.
Watched a real movie. It's just a movie.
They make those?
They make movies with dogs in them that are like actual movies.
What the hell?
They had characters and it had plot and tension and like stunts.
Wait, that's what a movie is? I thought a movie was like tropes and and bad
and
shaky
extreme
cam,
weird violence
out of nowhere for no reason, sexism,
nonsensical
constantly.
characters.
I thought that's what a movie was. What's this?
You know, like some bad ADR, people talking over each other,
talking dogs. Yeah.
Yes,
that's a film.
No, it turns out that you can put something on film that is enjoyable to watch.
No, see, that's alien to me. What does that even mean?
What? I don't know. I mean, it means this movie. This movie's good.
Yeah, okay, so we watched The Pack.
1977.
The original. The 1977 original. And it's supposed to be a horror film, and it is, at points, for sure. But it has themes and characters that do things that aren't just stupid for no reason.
It is a movie where it's a movie where there's a bunch of action scenes that are very tense. And then it's like, okay, so then it's all stupid action scenes. And it's like, no. There's also scenes of it being like quiet and introspective, and you're like, oh, so boring, like most of the movies. No,
yeah,
neither. No, it's like slow burn dread for scenes where you're like waiting for somebody to get hurt, like I don't know, a horror movie would.
It has moderation in how it displays its violence, and it has purpose behind every scene in which that is displayed.
Boys, there's themes. There's a theme and a message to this movie, and it starts from the beginning of the movie, and it goes through to the end of the movie, and nothing contradicts the theme, or, like, makes it stupid, and the theme is interesting and compelling and makes sense.
Okay, so you understand our confusion, right? like, what happened here?
Well, the real confusion is why the fuck does this movie have a 45% rating for audience on Rotten Tomatoes?
I mean, it has to be because it's a 70s movie, and, like, people just think 70s movies are boring, right? It has to be something like that.
I guess, like, that has to be it. I kind of feel like I need to look up a thing, actually.
This is, I wouldn't even say this is a B movie. This is just a movie.
No, this is, we talked about this. Yeah. This movie feels, like, it doesn't follow the same tropes and stuff as Jaws, which came out 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same movie at all. I was worried about that at first. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good... This is going to be a semi-competent knockoff of Jaws, because Jaws came out before it. It's wildlife versus man, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it never... it has its own vision and stuff, but at the same time... It is still, like, the same time period and stuff, so it's like, it's a movie that has some of the same build-up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it feels like Jaws. It feels like Jaws with maybe a little bit less of a budget, but, like...
And the animals in this movie aren't really, like... Like, in Jaws, the shark is sort of just a murderous slasher, basically.
Yes.
In this movie, they're not even that. They're just... neglected, mistreated, and they're just, I don't know. They're not there to, like, get revenge on the humans. They're just trying to survive, I guess. Like,
yeah, it is much more of a, it's a lot more of a thematic theme.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like Jaws it's just a slasher movie, but with a creature.
Yeah.
Not to insult Jaws too much, but Jaws doesn't feel like it necessarily has a lot of themes to it. Well, it's a good movie.
In the sequels, it's literally a revenge slasher where the child of Jaws goes after them. Like,
well, sure. I'm not necessarily... The sequels are not good movies.
No, but, although one of them is in 3D.
It is.
I can't wait for the pack in 3D.
Oh my god.
They are gonna shit on this film so bad in that remake that came out.
I was gonna say I'm so terrified of watching the remake now because now I'm invested because I actually like this movie. This movie is good, but I feel like so I had to look it up and I was gonna say I feel like it's probably a bit of the Vavitch syndrome where like The Vitch has a 59% audience score.
Okay.
And did you ever see it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. The Witch is, like, easily one of my top 3 all-time horror movies. Like, it's fucking fantastic, but it's slow. Like, it's not boring when it's slow, but it's building up a dread, and I think that there's a lot of people that don't have the patience for it.
Yeah, this whole movie has this overwhelming feeling of melancholy and dread and tragedy.
Yes.
Just nobody dies in this film because they're an asshole and they deserve it.
No.
And none of the dogs die because they're murderous horror. I mean, they are, but they're not just like some horrible monster that like, oh god, we need to shoot that fucker. Like, yeah. It's just like, it feels tragic even when they die.
Yes, because the setup of it is that it is so there's Seal Island, which is a kind of remote community where tourists go out to fish occasionally, but for the most part it's like a few kind of like there's even a Prospector Joe kind of guy.
Prospector Joe.
But like they're all on this island and they're kind of rough, rugged woods people. Kind of the main character is the marine biologist / wildlife officer kind of thing that lives on the island, and they're a remote community. They've got like a boat comes in every once a week kind of thing to drop off supplies. They've got a ham radio. It's that kind of a place. And then you get the occasional tourists and things like that. And what happens is these tourists are assholes. Yeah. And so the setup is that the tourists come in, they take dogs from like the local pounds around the area, and then they have the dog for the summer, and then they're like, we'll just dump it. And I'm like, God, I can believe that people would do that.
Yeah, and they just tie it out in the woods and then leave.
Yeah, there's actually a setup where there was one dog in particular at the beginning of this film where they're like, well, I mean, if we just tie it up out in the woods, it's no worse off than when we left it at the pound. It'll not self-free, and then it'll be free on the island. It's fine. Fucking assholes. Yeah, the movie is not saying that's good, by the way. The movie does a really good job of being like, hey, these fuckers are the reason that this is a problem. And what it is that these abandoned and neglected family pets end up having to struggle to survive, and they are starving, and they start attacking people. And so it's a very man versus nature, but man caused the problems with nature kind of story.
It's sort of an environmentalist story in a way.
Yes.
because
I wouldn't even say in a way. I think that it's very much an environmentalist story.
It's talking about how humans affect the environment around them through their neglect and mistreatment of animals, basically.
Yes.
That's the
and a lot of that also ends up being self-destructive.
Yeah.
Is the message.
And it will come back and bite us eventually for our own neglect.
Yeah, maybe even literally.
And in this case, actually literally, yes. Because an animal, even if you tame it at some point, they'll turn to survival, right? Like, that's the message. Fuck, we watched a movie!
We watched a movie. The movie has a message. It has... The acting is good. The acting is good.
Yeah.
The shots are good. The stunts are good. The dogs are good. The dogs look good. We got worried at one point because we were like, okay, this movie is really good so far, and it's looking interesting, and it's got like a lot of like scenes that are kind of intense, and we're like, these dogs look really fucked up, and they're like, okay, it's the 70s. Did they mistreat these dogs? Is this a really... Man, these dogs look really scary because they actually mistreated these dogs? And it's like, nope. No, we found an interview with a few people from the movie, and it seems like the dogs were treated pretty fairly. I mean, like, who knows?
Well,
100%,
the actress...
But...
so this was Millie in the movie. She
Yes.
was saying that they were treated like kings and queens and looked after and loved.
Yeah.
So,
I can believe it because the dog trainer, we looked it up afterwards as well, and the dog trainer is kind of a legend. He did a lot of movies that you may or may not have heard of. I don't know, have you ever heard of Cujo?
Oh, that's a dog movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Raising Arizona. Like, he basically has done 35 years worth of movies and TV that are, like, really, really recognizable stuff where he's the animal trainer for a bunch of things. Like Stand By Me and Miller's Crossing and, like, Nutty Professor even, like, Beethoven, Babe. Like, some really, really good movies, some not so good movies, but, like, all movies that are... where the animals, lots of really good animal stunts and stuff in them. So it's like somebody who knows what he's doing.
This movie has an interesting history, too, in a way. It was the first movie with this many dogs on film at one time, because working with animals is really tough. It really is. Like, So to train this many dogs to run around and not, like, do something crazy... when they're trying to shoot
fight each other and not like play and not like
They did a lot of work on that, so that's interesting. And then the other thing is this movie actually got a PG rating originally, and the film directors fought with the MPAA to change it to R.
Yes, because they're like, no, our movie's more intense than that. We need to sell us. Come on, we got to market it.
Yeah, and it is.
For when you said that it had a PG,
for 77, this is like pretty graphic and anxious and scary at times.
Oh yeah, when you said that it was PG, I was like, that's no, this should not be a PG movie. Like, they fucked up. Let's be honest, they fucked up that rating. I could understand where it wouldn't be R. I can see like a 14A or something. There's no way this should be a PG movie. This movie's got some dread in it. There's some moments that are like, whoa. And like, also, I mean, they do show people getting mauled in some pretty intense sequences. Like,
and like the dogs get really rowdy. There's some scenes where they're like really close to moving cars. That's like kind of nervous.
Well, I mean, there's a scene where he runs them over,
and it kind of looks bad.
It looks really bad. It looks really, really bad. Like, they do some trick camera work and stuff with some of these where, like, I'm pretty sure that what they did was a forced perspective. So, oh god, later on there's a stunt where it's kind of really clever. The one guy runs down to the pier because there's a boat going by. So he gets overly excited and he runs out and he's like shouting for the boat because they need rescue. They want to get off this island because all these dogs have gone feral.
Yeah.
And it near the end of the movie, and the boat is a bunch of like
that boat is
kind of
great.
Teens or
that boat is great because like the whole message is tourists are shits, right? So it's
in a lot of it,
it's these touristy kids just driving by on their, like, speedboat. Like, yo, there's a guy over there with a gun at the dock. Whoa, show him our way, bro.
Yeah, they're just kind of being dickhead 20-year-old or, like, teen kind of kids. And
little assholes.
He's yelling and shouting at them, and they drive off. And so then he's like, ah, shit. And he turns to go around, and there's dogs on the end of the pier. Like, the pack has shown up. And so he jumps off into the water and is, like, hanging on for dear life. Because, I mean, you're in weighted clothes. Like, you can't really swim in that. And another guy comes to rescue him, and he runs the car through the pier to, like, get to there protected.
Because the pack was keeping him at bay, basically. That's why he jumped off, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're at the end of the pier. And I think that what they did is they set it up like, it seems like they would have done a forced perspective kind of thing, where it looks like the dogs are really, really close to the car. Because they shoot from behind, and they're showing the dogs go, like, underneath.
It looked like
car.
They were under it, yeah.
Yes. But I think that they were a ways in front of it, and he got them all to roll over at, like, the same time. Like, there's, like, 4 or 5 dogs there. And I'm pretty sure that what he did is, like, got them to lay down and roll over, so that it looks like they're kind of getting hit and run over by the car. But it's just, they're 20 feet ahead of this car, and it looks like they're under it because of the fact that they've got the camera back and angled in a way, so...
That makes sense.
But like stuff like that looked real and intense. Like the mauling scenes look like it looks like somebody's getting fucking ripped apart by dogs.
Spoiler alert. Prospector Joe dies.
Prospector Joe fucking dies. And holy shit.
It's not good looking. It looks bad. Because, like, a dog jumps through the window, and then the pack jumps after him, and they're all just, like, mauling him on the ground, and, like, it looks like they're ripping and tearing at his arm, and it looks bad.
It looks bad. It's good stunts. Like, they do good stunt work with these dogs.
They riled them up really bad. Okay, so, actually, yeah, Millie, who's the wife of marine biologist man, sees the leader of the pack out at the edge of their backyard.
Yes.
Sort of near their, like, ducks or geese. I think they're ducks. That
yeah,
they just randomly ducks, have. Yeah. And she's like, hey, get out of here. You leave. Oh, I fucked up. Fucked up. Shouldn't have gone out.
Yeah, she's shouting at this dog, and the dog just starts snarling, and she's like, oh, that dog's not backing down, huh?
Yeah, this sucks. Uh-oh. So she runs to, like, an old beetle that they have in the yard, which is no longer functioning. And, like,
yeah, it's up on
locks herself in. Yeah. There's, like, a Cujo scene where the dog's, like, trying to get in through the window. And then the whole pack fucking surrounds the car and starts ripping out, like, at the roof.
Yeah, because it's like a convertible beetle where it's, like, got the, just like a
cover.
Cloth kind of cover, yeah.
And it looks terrifying because they really riled the actual dogs up for that scene. This is the last scene they shot for that whole movie, by the way. Mm-hmm. And there's some... It looks really bad. Like, if you rile up an animal that much, if that animal actually got in there during that scene, that could have actually been bad, I think. Like, it looks that bad.
I mean, they were saying that they had to tie the dog's tails down because they were wagging so much.
Okay, yeah,
that scene, right?
Okay, so yeah, in the interview, because they did an interview with the actress at comingsoon.net. So she says the other thing was, by the time we shot the ferocious attack on the car, all the dogs knew her very well because they've been hanging out with her. Mm-hmm. So all their tails were wagging when they went to the VW, lunging at her. They're like, "Oh my god, I love you, I love you." So they taped their tails down so you wouldn't see it. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah,
they looked like that.
But they looked vicious.
Yes, that scene was actually kind of nerve-wracking. Like, there's some scenes in this where I was like, you know, I'm finding myself a little bit on my edge of my seat. I think they might actually kill this person. Like, you were thinking that they might even kill the main character by the end of this film.
The way they were going, I could have easily seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, they do a lot of... There is a lot of non-tropey things. Like, I wouldn't say that this movie's a masterpiece or anything like that. This is just a very competent horror movie. We're just so used to seeing incredibly incompetent horror movies that it seems incredible. Like, we are building this up more than it is. But it's just a really well shot, decently acted, like, decent stunts, like
like, to go against tropes,
makes sense.
They have the old fisherman.
Yeah.
Who they introduce, part of the fisherman duo, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's kind of a dick the whole movie. And near the middle point, their radio's broken because there was a windstorm the night before, so they can't ham radio for help once they realize that there's a pack of wild dogs attacking everybody. So he gets on a rowboat after fucking devouring 2 oranges on screen. He just goes ham on that.
Goes for those oranges.
Yeah, man, that guy loves oranges. But he gets on a rowboat to row 18 miles to get them help, right? And they show him rowing like another 10 minutes later. So like, hey, we didn't forget about this guy. He's still here. And the trope would be like, oh, he shows up at the end of the movie and they brought a ferry and they saved them, right? That's the trope.
Yeah.
No, he has a fucking stroke and dies. He's just dead. Teens didn't go off to have sex. That didn't happen.
Yeah, no, there's no, like...
There's no weird, creepy sex scene.
Nope. Again, like, I'm like, holy shit, this is a real horror movie director, you know, one that made a movie because they want to make a movie, and not one that wants to make a movie because they're like, well, it's hard to get into porn. If I trick people into thinking that we're doing a horror movie, I can get them to get naked and film that. Cool.
Like, a character doesn't say, I'm going to go off on my own now, and then leave.
Yeah.
They all left because they had actual reason to go somewhere and do something, right? Like,
yes.
And then once they realize that they're being attacked, they don't split up. They're like, oh, let's fucking hole up in this house, actually. This seems great. Fuck this.
Everyone acts logically in this movie, and if they don't act logically, then the way that they're acting is in an emotional way that makes sense for their character and the situation. Like, and then, for example, the guy that ran out onto the pier trying to get the boat, he left the door open and, like, for their cabin they were holed up in, and is, like, waving his gun, so he loses the gun, too.
Yeah.
But they've been, at this point, they've kind of been holed up on a cabin after, like, 4 people have been mauled to death, and most of his close friends, like, the tourists are basically most of the casualties, and so, like, all of his friends and stuff are fucking dead, and he's been holed up with these people that he doesn't know, and they're kind of, you can tell that it's kind of tense, like, people don't get along in a tiny little cabin like that when they've got almost no food and probably not a lot of running water and all this kind of stuff, right? And it makes sense that he's excited to try and find rescue and loses himself for a moment, right? It's 20 feet away from the house. He figures, I'll just run out there, wave them down, and then we're fine. Like, I don't want to miss the boat. So the little things like that where it's like a mistake are mistakes that make sense. They're all something that are like, okay, yeah, I mean, somebody would totally do that in a situation. You're not thinking 100% clearly. He didn't sleep most of that night because he was on watch, right? Like, they had, like, watches set up, and so, like, all just different things like that.
They rolled for the watch to see if anything would happen. You know?
Yeah, and he ended up getting no encounters, but then made a stupid mistake, and the GM got him for it.
There's no... Well, alright, there's no monster attacking, but you hear a whirring sound. A whirring sound? Perception check. It's a boat. I go to the boat. You fucking idiot. And then the DM just like, yes.
So I guess we should like just talk about the plot of this movie. So like we said, there's the start of it is we're 20 some minutes into talking about this film. We've just kind of gone scene to scene. They are on this remote island. These owners kind of leave the pets out into the wilderness. It's not directly stated in such a flat out way, in like that kind of a stupid way, but it's set up slowly that you realize that that's what's happened. The one dog has been a through line actually for this film and is part of the theme in that, like, they tied it up in the woods and it manages to get away, but it's got like a rope still on it, and that dog kind of keeps showing up in the pack as the movie progresses too. But it's always like in the back and just kind of following them, and it gets stuck on a few things, like keep on having its...
That dog doesn't necessarily want to hate people. He's just scared of them now, basically, I think, right? Like, he's following the pack.
Yeah, they just have it where it's
wild up.
And it's really hungry, right? Like
Yeah.
it's lost in the woods and hungry. It's a domesticated animal that doesn't know how to forage for itself in the woods, and it's got like a rope still around its neck that keeps getting caught on things. So it's got like this huge hobbling factor that probably stops it from being able to catch other animals and things too. But anyway, so they leave that out in the woods, and then there's the two like old crotchety fisherman kind of people that you were talking about. The one guy who tries to grow to safety eventually and get them help, and just kind of another, I don't know, like local, I guess you could say. There's the prospector, and then there's the marine biologist and his family. They've got two kids, and he's got his like wife. He's making her a cabin in the woods. They kind of show that, and they're talking about it.
There was the banker and the VP of the bank.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Then there's the tourists. There's a banker, bank VP, a secretary, and, like, his son, and...
His son is like, great, by the way.
Yes, his son's really good.
His 40-year-old son, who's balding.
Oh my
that guy's
God,
great.
they make him such a fail son. Yes.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's secretary and another there's another woman there for some reason. I can't remember. It's secretary and somebody else, but like a bunch of people from the company.
Yeah.
And they actually set it up where I thought they were going to be kind of creepy about it, because like the crotchety old fishermen are like making stupid sex jokes kind of thing. Like not, I wouldn't say sex jokes, I guess, but they go like, oh, like we should check their fishing licenses. He's like, just don't ask for the marriage licenses, or like, oh, maybe they're having an affair going out in the cabin in the woods, kind of thing. And you're like, oh God. And they show like at one point where one of the guys is kind of ogling the younger lady kind of thing. But that's all they do with it. They kind of set it up that, oh, okay, well, this guy is kind of trying to set it up with his son.
They're setting it up that way because they want to set up his dumb failure of a son with this woman. But he's also, like, all that is dropped the moment, like, they realize they're in an actual serious situation, too.
Yeah, and the movie never... The movie never, like, overly sexualizes her in a way. Like, it shows one point where it shows the guy checking her out, and it kind of, like, zooms in on her butt or whatever, but it's not, like... She's not dressed in, like, really flimsy clothing all the time. She doesn't run through the woods. She doesn't, like... They have a scene later on where she's running through the woods with the fail son, and, like, you'd expect, like, in a B-movie, 70s movie horror... You'd expect her to be running through the woods and her shirt to get all ripped up.
Yeah,
with
her boobs
her to be in like a tank top and like or she's out on like the beach with him and they're like, ooh, we should go skinny dipping, and then they get caught in the water. But do you know what I mean? Like there's some stupid ass setup. Like they don't do that. She's in a heavy wool coat with big boots and stuff, and because they're out in a hike in the woods, why would she be dressed skimpy? And like. There's nothing like that. They don't go there. So I'm like, good for them. They didn't do that shit. But yeah, so like, we kind of get a lot of the movie at the beginning is setup of all the different characters. So you kind of like know that these people are idiot tourists. And they do a good job of it because like they have them, like kind of the old fishermen are kind of like, oh God, another load of tourists don't know what they're doing kind of thing. And as they're saying that, they demonstrate it because... the people try to get in the car, but she's still holding the fishing poles, so she almost bends the fishing poles as they get them in, and they're like, oh, Jesus Christ. So they like little bits and things like that. It doesn't show them as being, like, over-the-top incompetent, but it just shows them as, like, they're tourists, right? It sets up well that, like, there's some very, very woodsy people, and then some people that are there for the weekend.
Yeah, it does a good job of setting up the characters, the relationships, and, you know, like, why they're there. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, the banker's there with, like, his son because he wants his son to, like... He kind of wants his son to be tougher, and he's trying to set him up with this woman and stuff, and the son even balks at that at one point. That's kind of the son's arc, in a way, is that he's really upset about, like, oh, my dad just gives me everything. Like, I don't earn anything in my life, kind of thing. He just does stuff for me, and it's like, you know, like, makes sense, right? Like, they give characters a reason.
Speaking of... I don't even want to talk about the plot like linearly for this movie, to be honest. I just want people to watch this movie. But
yeah, that's fair.
But the deaths are varied in an interesting way.
Yes.
There's, I mean, so Prospector Joe. That's not his name. We're calling him Prospector Joe for very obvious reasons.
It's like oh god,
McManaman or something.
Yeah, old man McManaman, old McMahon man.
But old McMahon
man
with beard man.
Yeah. McMahon man beard man.
But he has a dog named Zsa Zsa, which is a German Shepherd. We didn't even mention Rye. Rye's a really good boy. We'll get to Rye. But yeah, so he has a dog named Zsa Zsa, and they live, alone. And Zsa Zsa is very protective and very sweet. And as the pack, surrounds his house, Zsa Zsa runs out and is like, "Hey, get the fuck away from my human!" And unfortunately goes down from the pack that attacked the dog, which sucks.
They ripped the dog apart.
It's bad.
That one was... There's some dog violence in here that's pretty rough to see.
We were assured that these dogs were okay in this interview, so...
Yes.
I'm going to throw that out there. But that one, that's pretty good. There's, what's her name? Lois, who ran off into the woods with the son. The miserable, worthless son. And she like trips on something and falls in like a pool of water, and he just keeps fucking running. And the whole pack
he leaves her. He just abandons her immediately.
Yeah, but the whole pack like runs him out of the woods onto the beach on a cliff, and then runs him off the cliff. And he just jumps
he gets
off.
A choice of just jump off the cliff or get mauled by the dogs, and he jumps.
Yeah. And then Lois wanders into the like farm that they were staying in. The pack was staying in.
Yeah, the pack found an abandoned. There was like they show early on. There's like a big rainstorm, and the pack runs into this like old abandoned barn, and she finds it as well. And she's kind of lost in the woods at this point because she tripped and fell and stuff and was running from the pack, and now doesn't know where she is. So she sees this shelter and takes shelter in it. And at that point,
when the pack shows up, they maul her, right? Like, that makes sense. There's variety of location, what they're doing, why they're there. I guess the father, the banker, goes on a murderous rampage after the dogs when he finds out that they killed his son and Lois. And then he gets mauled because he's a dumb idiot and he was on a murderous rampage.
But again, it's one of those things where he does a really stupid thing. So they go out and they find her body in the barn, and so he's the one with the rifle, and at the time he's like, "Fuck this," and he runs outside and he slams the door and he's like, "Where's my son?" Because he doesn't know that his son's dead, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill these sons of bitches for my Tommy and stuff," and he tries to drive the car over the dogs, and then he's going out and he's trying to blast them, and so of course they maul him, and it's stupid. But at the same time, it's like he's grief-stricken and angry, and it makes perfect sense what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, what he's doing is very dumb, but also from an emotional standpoint of, the way people act when something, tragic happens or scary happens. It makes perfect sense why he does what he does.
So if this was a slasher movie, they would just be, walking in the woods and then machete through the chest or something, right? It's not as interesting in necessarily in why they're being attacked or what happens to lead up to that attack. You're not there for the spectacle of the murder, right?
Yeah.
The murder is almost secondhand to the rest of what is happening because it's the people that are the interesting part.
Yeah, they make the people and the theme of the movie the part that matters, where it's...
Yeah, there's...
The kind of, like you said, a bit of the man versus nature, but it's because what man has done to nature.
You know what this reminds me of, actually? Night of the Living Dead. That's a movie about people.
Sure.
And how they react, and how they handle being in a boarded-up house situation... while surrounded by murdering beings, right?
I was thinking that at one point. I was thinking at one point that it was almost going to veer a little bit into that territory of, like you said, the Night of the Living Dead or The Thing, right? Where it was kind of now that they're holed up in this house, the biggest enemy is each other a little bit.
Yeah.
They're all reasonable people because, like, they start fighting a lot. Like, there's the tourists are really upset at the game warden, like, marine biologist man, because they're like, what the fuck? Like, you failed to protect everybody. And they both don't have a point and also have a point. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's totally right, and he's like, they weren't a problem until now. Like, I didn't know there was a whole pack of them. We've seen one or two every once in a while feral out in the woods. What am I supposed to do? Hunt down every damn dog on the island? It doesn't make sense. And he's like, they only just now started attacking people. Now they're a problem, and now I'm dealing with it. And it... Yeah. But at the same time, from their perspective, they're like, fuck, 2 people are dead, my friends, like... You're the game warden. This is supposed to be your job to protect the wildlife and the people here, and you're not doing it. So there's, like, all of their conflicts make sense, and the reason why they're angry at each other makes sense. But I was thinking that they might start more and more kind of being each other's enemies, and they don't totally veer into that.
Yeah.
I do think that might have made it, like, better than it is. Like, if they had really done some very
Because they could have gone further. They could have.
They could have gone a lot further and done better even with that. I don't think that they did bad. I just think that it doesn't go super in-depth in that way. It kind of leaves it more surface level. And they just stay more on the line of, like, the actual nature kind of thing. Because there's an idea of, like, sort of the theme of the movie. The dog that we were talking about that had the rope on it the whole time.
The collie, yeah.
The collie, yeah. It was a really cute collie, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this lassie dog, this cute border collie that's running around with the rope on it. Mm-hmm. At the end of the film, I guess should we even spoil how the end of the movie goes? Or should people actually just watch this?
Let's just put a spoiler warning. Spoiler.
Okay, spoiler warning, because like, this is a movie
spoilers. Yeah, we don't do those much, so...
If you like B-movie horror... I mean, B-movie.
This isn't really but...
It's not even B-movie. If you like old horror movies that are just kind of a classic kind of creature horror movie, you might want to actually watch this, so spoiler alert.
Yeah.
At the end... the game warden kind of gets tired because they've lost the gun, because the guy runs out to the pier, like we talked about, to get the boat. So he loses the last gun. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's tired. They've been holed up in this house for a couple days. And he's like, fuck this shit. I'm done. And he makes a plan, which is actually kind of clever, because they have a stairway into the attic. And he's like, well, the dogs can't get up that. I'll lure the dogs into the house. Everybody else will leave. There's a gas barrel outside because you've got like generators and trucks and stuff. Makes sense, rural kind of place. The other guy is going to get gas and kind of pour it into a little bowl and then leave a trail of it, light the house on fire, and it'll burn up real quick because it's this old wood house. And I'm going to run into the attic so the dogs can't get me, and then I'll jump out of the second floor window and run. We'll have the dogs burn in the house. We'll trap them in there. And he enacts that plan, manages to do it, and this dog that's had a rope on it throughout the movie that we've kind of seen glimpses of hanging around the back of the pack all the time, tries to go into the house to follow the rest of the dogs, but gets its rope stuck out in the woods. Like, it gets stuck on a log again. And so it watches as all these other dogs burn alive in this house, which is kind of horrific when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is it's tragic. There's a lot of...
I don't feel good about any death in this movie.
No.
I really don't.
No, this movie was... Yeah, it does a good job of, like, just feeling melancholy and tragic, like you said. And I think that it was on purpose. But anyway, so he jumps out of the second floor window, gets away... Then they see that there's this one dog left. The one guy goes over to, like, hit it over the head because he's one of the tourists and, like, kill this dog. And the game warden's like, leave the fucking dog alone. Goes over there and brings it a bunch of crackers, and he starts, like, feeding it and being like, it's okay. Nobody's going to hurt you now. And at the final shot of the movie is the dog taking a treat from his hand and then slowly leaning forward and licking it. So it's like this kind of hopeful ending.
It's interesting because that dog has an overwhelming arc. There's a dog arc.
Yeah, there's a character arc for a dog.
Because that dog is abandoned by a tourist at the beginning of the film, and then you see throughout the movie the dog isn't even like actively involved with the attacks. It's sort of in the back. It's being like kind of fretful and like not sure if it wants to be part of the pack, but it kind of is just there. Like
it has to survive.
It has a chance of rehabilitation, and and that rehabilitation of like they're not bad animals. Like they didn't want to do what they're doing, you know? Like we just need to take better care of them, and if we don't, this is the type of thing that can happen. So it ends on this hopeful message of, you know, like there's still something that could be done, and and we as humans need to take better care of these animals, and they need to be respected in a way. Like it's this big arc of this dog. They could have just made this a feral fucking asshole dog that just like attacks them, and they didn't.
Yeah, I was thinking that what they would do at the end is that dog would survive, see the other dogs get killed, and become like the leader of a new pack, and they'd be like, "Oh, the pack two,
the pack two, and it's like, the pack-ganating."
No,
yeah,
no, not at all. Like they don't set that up in the slightest. They set it up as like they keep the theme strong throughout. Where, like you said, it's the theme is man needs to take better care of nature, or nature will in fact fucking bite back.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it says, listen, we fucked up. We've done some things that, or like other people have done things even, because like that's kind of a point too, is that the locals aren't mistreating dogs. It's all these tourists that don't care about the environment and don't care about nature. But there's like this idea of, it still is going to hurt all of us, so we need to all learn to get along and all need to learn to like treat nature better, and there's still something that you can do to do that. Like there's kind of this resonant theme throughout.
It's a movie.
Themes in this. There's themes
film.
in this.
We watched a movie.
This movie has an arc and a theme, and like sticks with it, and it makes sense, and it works. They do things like, I do see why people probably don't like this, like I said, in that it does take some time. But that's what I liked about it, is that it has the quiet moments to build up to bigger ones. And like a good example of that is that we talk about old McMahon, who died out in his cabin, dies in the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, they're setting this up, and like they're ramping things up fast. They're going to have to, like, slow things down and make it boring. But what it is it's more of a setup of dread, because they do a good job of all of the people being kind of separated and learning about the actual pack of dogs piece by piece kind of thing, and how much of a threat they are. In that, like, the main character, Jerry, first sees the wild dog out by the dump, and he just sees one dog. And it hurts his dog, who's the best boy. Rye rules.
Rye's a good boy.
Rye's such a good boy. But, so it hurts his dog, and he's like, oh, there's a feral dog out there. I guess I'll have to go out and put it down. Which is not a big threat. He's like, oh, everyone be careful.
He's a game warden, like, of some kind anyway. Like, yeah, it makes sense.
And he basically sends out a notice kind of thing where he's like, there is a wild dog that is running around. It might be dangerous. Just be careful when you're walking around. If you see a dog, back away from it slowly kind of thing. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Doesn't know there's a whole pack of them yet. And, like, again, then the kids go out to play, and they're in the treehouse. And that's when he learns that there's a pack. Well, the kids, he's like, oh, stay close because there's a wild dog. But the kids are kids, and they're also like, well, there's only one dog. It's not that big of a deal. So they kind of run off a little bit. The tourists are like, oh, well, there's one dog. If two of us go on a hike together, it's one wild dog. What's the big deal? So, like, everybody kind of learns out piece by piece what's going on. And so you see, like, Minnie gets attacked in the car, or Millie, sorry. Millie gets attacked in the car. And that's when they realize, oh, shit, this is, like, serious. But by then, there's a lot of people that are all kind of in different places where they don't need to, like, they don't learn right away. And so the tension is, as an audience member, oh shit, these are a serious threat. They are killing people. But you get, like, people wandering through the woods not really knowing that and having, like, interactions that make sense for where they are, but we as an audience are kind of like, oh shit, you need to get out. Like, oh, don't, no. Don't go in there. Like when she's going into the barn, right, for shelter, you're like, it's been set up that you've seen these dogs in there. Nobody else really knows even that they're there, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, she's in some trouble if she's gonna have a nap there. That's a bad spot to take shelter. But so it does a good job of kind of interspersing like lots and lots of build up and dread. And the characters making logical choices, but that are going to kind of possibly be bad. And they do a good job of, like, not all of them end up bad. Like, not everybody in those situations die. So it's like you kind of have this tension of, like, oh, is this person going to get away or are they going to die? And you don't really know. So that's kind of the ratcheting up of the tension, right? Is that you kind of... It jumps from, like, a kill to then somebody else, some new group that doesn't necessarily know where the dogs are, doing their own thing and having their character moments, and you're sitting there kind of going like, okay, they're out in the woods, why are they doing this? That's a bad spot to be, and you don't know if they're going to die or if they're going to make it, because a lot of people, like I said, Millie gets away from the car scene.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Fuck.
But, like, I can understand if you don't like the quiet build-up moments, if you don't like the dread kind of things, then I could see why you would not like this movie a lot.
So, let's talk about the dogs a little bit, since we're kind of wrapping up here. So, all the dogs in this film are actually rescues that famous dog trainer then took in and trained. So that's cool.
Carl Lewis Miller, by the way.
Yeah,
Carl Lewis Miller.
They did a lot to make them look feral. They like matted their fur with Vaseline to make them look shiny, and they put things in their mouth to make them lift up their gums to snarl.
Peanut butter, you said?
I think it's peanut butter, or they might have just put like something in the mouth like there to like lift it up a bit. So that was interesting. But outside of that, the dogs are actual actors in this movie. Like, the main pack leader, his name is Josh, by the way, the dog. He is a leading actor in this movie. Yeah. Like, him and Jerry are the two main actors. They get, I would say, equal screen time.
Yes.
Real talk.
That's probably true.
The other thing is the collie. So in order to get them to do what they wanted, like they needed that dog to be scared and like wary, especially at the end. It was really important at the end. So like the trainer had to get that dog to be that way, but they have a really good relationship. Like him and that dog are very close. That's how you get the trust build up to have these dogs do what you need to do on screen, right? So in that same interview, the actress for Millie was saying, I remember there was that dog from the start that closes the film, that lovely collie that gets to be rehabilitated, and she was meant to be quite scared throughout the film. And Carl would have to yell at her to get her to become frightened. Aww. And it would kill him to do that. He would get depressed from doing it. And as soon as they would yell cut, he would race to her and make sure she was okay. And she was super happy right afterwards. But like
sad.
Like they had to go out of their way to make the animals react in a way that made sense on screen, and not all that is training. That's just like you had to have that trust with those animals first to get the reactions that they wanted, and then they had to make sure afterwards, like, oh, are you actually okay? I didn't actually mean to yell you. I'm so sorry. Like, it's really cute. Behind the scenes, there's a lot. It's nice to know that they took such good care of them, because they made it look like they didn't. Very
they made this.
So
this movie is full of a lot of like, those dogs, those dogs, dogs, no. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, I don't want to see these dogs get hurt no more. But like again, it's kind of it's a really tragic story. Yeah. Like that's why I think that's why the message of it works too, in that like, it's not that nature is bad, it's that nature is nature, and we need to respect and take care of it. And it really underscores the tragedy of that, like you said, no deaths in this movie are interesting or like they're not fun to watch or deserved. None of them.
Yeah.
All of the people feel like, even the people that you don't necessarily like a lot, none of them are bad people necessarily. They're just kind of, you know, like they might have made a mistake or two, or you might not like certain parts of them, but nobody's like an outright villain by any means. Nobody's really villainous or evil or a total piece of shit in this movie. Like, there's not really any of that at all. And all the dogs have, like, you get that tragic backstory of the collie that ties it together, of, like, this whole idea of, these are just dogs trying to survive and nobody treated them well enough. And it just makes a really tragic movie. It's both a horror movie, but also, like, it has an uplifting ending, and also is, like you said, a lot of melancholy and tragedy in it. So it's a weird film, but it's a neat one. I did like this film a lot.
Well, I think we should rate the dogs. I feel like, at this point, we both said enough good things about this movie. You should just watch it.
It's so nice to actually talk about a good movie. Yeah. I can't wait until next week when we do the Pack 2016, and we hate everything about it because they destroy everything good in this movie. Because I've seen trailers for it, and I was always thinking that they were like remaking this movie, and oh boy, they can't be. They really can't be, because I've seen trailers and I'm like, holy shit. Okay, anyway.
Let's rate Zsa Zsa. Let's start there. Prospector's faithful, loyal friend. Zsa Zsa was very, very protective and a very loyal dog and didn't deserve what happened. And that dog gets a very solid 13 out of 10. I love that dog.
I'm just really glad that in intense situations, Zsa Zsa doesn't come apart.
You fucking asshole. Right.
Zsa Zsa doesn't go to pieces when a really bad situation comes up. Zsa Zsa goes out and fights. Yeah, that was rough. I hated watching that scene. That was probably the roughest scene in this movie. There was... Zsa Zsa gets torn apart, but Zsa Zsa's a really, really cute, like you said, German Shepherd.
Rye is also a German Shepherd.
Yes.
Rye is a very loyal, very good dog. Loves their family and their owner, and is very protective and a very good boy, and also gets away with the family, and oh, what a good boy. Like, also 13 out of 10.
Rye survives. Rye survives. It doesn't join the pack. Rye is very, very nice. I was thinking that they might go for that, too. That they might have, like, some of the... Like, in dogs, right? That... Where, like, there's a frequency that's making all the dogs go insane! But it's... No, they don't do any of that.
The dog that is well taken care of, that isn't neglected, that isn't left to fend for itself, is, as it turns out, fine.
A very loyal, nice, awesome, cute dog that gets injured at the beginning of the movie, fighting off the dog to help him, and then it fights again when, like, they're holding down the house at one point.
This movie at all does not say dogs are bad. That is not a message this film says, and I love that. I gave 13 out of 10. I like Rye.
Absolutely. These are some of the best dogs we've ever seen on film. 100%.
There's Josh, which is the lead, like, pack dog.
Yes, the bad dog, the antagonist.
Josh is a little
I'm going to give Josh a Meryl Streep out of 10, because that's some good acting. I feel like Josh is actually a good boy. I feel like Josh is actually a good boy, but Josh comes off as a bad boy.
I would give Josh a Black Swan out of 10.
They really, the dog, they really Cujo this dog up.
They really do.
This dog is like, it looks mangy and nasty and scary. Like, that dog looks terrifying in a few scenes, to be honest. Like, that car attack scene when she's in that Volkswagen Beetle, I thought they were going to have her die. I thought that was going to be her death scene, and it was pretty intense.
So there's something really funny. I think the trainer was joking with her, by the way, but during that same interview, he's like, oh, by the way, there's only so much I can do about the dogs. If that dog actually got in there, you might have ripped your face off.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of truth to that in the way that, like,
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of truth to that in the way that, like, animal trainers in Hollywood have been mauled quite a few times by various animals. Not generally by dogs, but, like, the thing is that if you get dogs too excited, even if they're being playful and stuff like that, like, they can play too hard and they can hurt you, so... There's animals.
Last is the Collie, which is the opening and ending of the film.
And you keep rating these as 13 really out of 10, so I have to go 14 out of 10, because that dog is maybe my favorite dog that we've ever seen put to film. I wanted to, like, reach through the scene and give it a hug. The whole film.
Yeah, a 14 out of 10 is fair, I think. Yeah.
Because, God, like, the beginning of it, I cannot underscore the tragedy of the beginning of this, of, like, these two shitty parents telling their kid to leave this dog in the woods, and this kid, like, crying and trying to, like, give it hugs and stuff as they, like, tie it up. And he's like, it's fine, don't worry about it. And it's like, God, it sucked. I mean, it was supposed to suck, so the movie does it right, but it's supposed to suck, and it sucks. It sucks to watch.
Final note, the pet counter on this film is 5.
You got 5?
I got 5.
4.
So
I missed one.
The lick on the hand at the end counts as a pet.
Yes. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
That's
okay.
5.
The very yes. That's the last pet of the movie. The movie ends on a good pet.
It ends on a pet. It ends on a pet.
Ringing endorsement. Movie ends on pets. and a pet of probably my favorite dog that we've ever had.
Yeah.
The dog that just needed a good hug the whole movie. All we needed to do... This is like the perfect dog movie. The whole point of the movie is that you need to go out and hug and pet your dogs and treat them good.
Yeah.
Boom. Perfect dog film. Pet dogs.
Well, there's one way we can end this. Sorry. I got a letter from our lawyers. Dear listeners of Roof Cuts, we apologize for watching a good film, and we acknowledge your concern. The demand for a way worse film has been dramatic, and we will make good effort to follow through on that. Thank you.
We've got it. Don't worry. The PAC 2016. I can guarantee. I don't know what I'll do. I need to have some kind of bet. Like, I'll do... There's something wild that I have to do if that's wrong. Like, there's no way the PAC 2016 is going to be a good movie. I've seen the trailer for it, and I don't want to spoil too much, but it feels very much like all of the things that we were talking about, like about how they don't have the dogs go wild and just, like, opening doors and shit that don't make sense. It's going to do all of those things. Every single thing in this movie that we were like, wow, they avoided all the real obvious tropes that would have made this movie shitty. Yeah. It's going to fucking trip into every one of those. It's in a world of upturned rakes, baby, and it's going to step on all of them.
Yeah. Thank you for your support during these trying times of watching good movies.
Watching good movies is a very unfortunate thing for our podcast. Hopefully you'll come back next week when we watch a bad movie. All I can say is I guarantee it will be. Have a good one. Thank you for supporting Rough Cuts. It does mean a lot to us. I actually fixed our Patreon because apparently it was broken. Somebody mentioned that to me, so I apologize. We've got our Patreon fixed. You can follow us at Rough Cuts Cast on Twitter, or you can send us suggestions or anything else you want. We actually have received fan art from Benji the Hunted, which is really good.
It's true.
We have roughcutscast@gmail.com as our email, so you can always send any suggestions or comments or things that you have there. And if you rate us on iTunes and stuff, always super appreciated. Share us on Twitter, that kind of stuff. And we will see you next time.
See ya.
My whole life ruined by dogs.